Well, hello, this is Miss Becky here, and I'm going to be going over how to solve these special triangles, these special right triangles. So there are two of them, and you guys might have seen them before, but this one is called the 45, 45, 45, 45, 90 degree triangle. And what we notice about this one is that, let's see, both of its legs will be the same measure. Okay, so if this leg is 5 units long, we know this leg is 5 units long. And then the hypotenuse is always going to be whatever the legs are times the square root of 2. So with that example that we had, with the legs being 5, then this hypotenuse would be 5 times the square root of 2. Okay, so then also conversely, let's see, I think my thing is stuck again. It's lagging. If we didn't know what the sides were, then but we had the measurement of the hypotenuse, all you would have to do is divide this by the square root of 2, and that would give you the sides. Okay. All right, let me get rid of this. Now, the second special triangle that we have is a 30, 60, 90. And you've got the 30-degree angle is adjacent to what I call the long leg. Okay, this one is longer. And let's do purple. 60-degree angle, you can't really see that. 60-degree angle is adjacent to the short leg. And the short leg is kind of important because the other legs are sort of based off of the short leg. So here's an example. If this leg, if the short leg, which you'll see me call SL, short leg equals 5, then the long leg is going to be 5 times the square root of 3. And a lot of times I'll call that long leg. And the hypotenuse is doubled the short leg. So it's going to be 2 times 5, which is 10 in this example. Okay? Okay, so here's some of the problems that you're going to see. What we see on this one, off the bat, we know that it is a 45-degree angle. So we know that this other angle has to be 45 degrees. So it's this type of an angle, triangle, 45, 45, 90. So we know that, I keep losing my pen, there it is. We know that if this leg is 6 units long, this one also has to be 6 units long. Now the hypotenuse is going to be whatever the legs are times the square root of 2. So this hypotenuse would be 6 times the square root of 2. Okay, so moving on to this next one. Here's one clue. We've got a 60-degree angle there. So we automatically know that the other angle is going to be 30 degrees. All right, now we can figure out what the sides are going to be. Now, pay attention to which leg clue that you're given. We have a hypotenuse, and we know that the hypotenuse is doubled the short leg. And I always find it easier to go after the short leg first because the others are based off of it. And the short leg, always remember, is next to the larger angle. The smaller leg is next to the larger angle. The larger leg is next to the smaller angle. So since the hypotenuse is 10, then the short leg is going to be half of that, 10 divided by 2. And we have a lagging pen again. There, fixed it, is 5. Now, since we know that the short leg is 5 units long, then it's going to be easier to find the long leg. So it's going to be 5 times the square root of 3. All right. All right. Why don't you pause the video here and see if you can try this next row of problems, and then I'll come back and see how you did. Alrighty. Well, this one was a 45-45, and we were given the hypotenuse. So we just had to divide by the square root of 2 because again, the hypotenuse is based off of the legs and it's multiplied by the square root of 2. So to undo that, we'll divide. And when you divide 3 times the square root of 2, divide it by the square root of 2, those cancel out and it leaves you with 3. Now on the next one, it's a 60-30, and we have the short leg here, so that's pretty easy. So the short leg for the hypotenuse is doubled. I mean, the hypotenuse is doubled the short leg, so it is 6 times 2, which is 12. And then the long leg is going to be whatever the short leg is times the square root of 3. So that one wasn't so bad. And if we move on to this next one, number 5, again, it's a 45-45, and the legs are going to be the same. The hypotenuse is what we were given. So if we divide the hypotenuse by the square root of 2, it'll give us what the legs are. Again, these canceled out, leaving us with 2. So that one wasn't too bad either. This one is another, we were given 30 degrees. We know this is 60 degrees. Now it's the short leg that was missing. So I always kind of like to go for that one first. Well, the one I have is the long leg, and the long leg was multiplied by the square root of 3. So if we divide it by the square root of 3, that gives us a short leg. And again, these cancel out. So our short leg was 4 units long. The hypotenuse is doubled the short leg. So 4 times 2 is 8. How'd you do on that? Hopefully you did pretty well. Okay, almost done here. This is number 7. It's a little bit different, so I'm going to walk you through this one. Just make sure you remember how to take care of those radicals. Here it's a 45 degree. Legs are missing, and we do have a hypotenuse. So we need to divide that hypotenuse by the square root of 2, like this. Now, you can't divide whole numbers by radicals, so what we have to do is, we can't leave that like that, so we are going to do what's called rationalizing the denominator. So we're going to multiply it by itself, because then in doing that, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 makes 2. And 6 times the square root of 2 just stays as 6 times the square root of 2. Remember, when you multiply the denominator by a number, you have to do the same thing to the numerator, or else it's out of balance. So now we're looking at our whole numbers here. We have 6 over 2, and that divides out into 3, and we leave that square root of 2 there. So each of the legs are 3 times the square root of 2. Okay? So pause away here and see if you can figure out these next two. And I'll come right back and we'll see how you did. Okay, here. On this one, we notice it's a 45-45. Did we do that one together already? I can't remember. Anyway, I'm tired. So if we didn't, if we did, I'll still go through it again. So we have to divide by the square root of 2 to find out what the legs are. So then when we did that, I had to rationalize the denominator, and that made it into 6 times the square root of 2 divided by 2, and this 6 over 2 divided out into 3. So that's both of the legs on that one. The next one here, it was the missing angle was a 60 degrees, so that tells me that's the short leg, and you guys know that's the one that I like to try to figure out. Short leg is it's whatever the long leg is divided by the square root of 3. So we did that, but then we had to rationalize it, and that gave us 9 times the square root of 3 over 3, And then when that 9/3 divides out, that's 3 times the square root of 3. So that's our short leg. Then for our hypotenuse, it's going to be doubled whatever the short leg was. So 3 times the square root of 3 gives us 6 times the square root of 3. Okay? Then on this last one, we didn't have any degrees that were given, but the clues were that, if you remember from your geometry class, that those markings mean that those angles are congruent, they're the same measure. And that also means that these legs are also congruent. So that the only way that would divide out would be that those would be 45 degrees. And we were given the hypotenuse, and so we need to find the legs. And so we would divide that hypotenuse by the square root of 2. Again, we can't leave it like that, so we have to rationalize it. And the denominator turns into 2. And then we can divide these whole numbers. 4 divided by 2 gives us 2. And that is it. And that's about all you're going to be doing for the special triangles. And I hope you're okay with that. Let me know if you have any questions, or if you found any errors. Just let me know. And until next time, see you later.